Welcome everyone to another edition of Bozzelli's TV. This is episode 4, and I always say I don't think we could ever top the last episode, especially since Holly Rocco Ferracci made her debut in episode 2, but she did it in episode 3, and I think we're doing it again, folks, in episode 4, because we're setting a precedent today. We're setting a first on the show. We have an actual winemaker on the show. So we've talked wine, we've tasted wine, we've never had an actual winemaker on the show. And not only is this a winemaker very accomplished, he racks up gold medals and governor cups like nickels and dimes, but through a lot of hard work though. But he hails from our home state of Virginia, and so we really appreciate that, because the Virginia wine industry is still in its infancy compared to a lot of other wine industries. We have about 300 plus wineries. That's still a limited amount compared to other areas. Nonetheless, though, we have a major winemaker on the show today. I am so enthused. Thank you again, Holly. Welcome, Holly Rocco Ferracci from Republic National. Welcome my co-host, Daniel Sexton. And again, I apologize, I'm not able to be there today to taste these exquisite wines, but I'm sure our guest and the special guest, Matthew Meyer of Williamsburg Winery, is going to make me regret this even more once he starts pouring. So welcome, Matthew, to the show. Thanks for taking the time. Great to have you. I understand you and Holly are close friends, and I've done a little research, and you know your stuff, and you're also very down to earth and accessible, and that's kind of like how we are on Bozzelli's TV, and how Holly is, and the whole Republic National organization. I think all organizations are top down, so I have a good feeling about Williamsburg Winery already. So welcome to the show, and I always start with, how'd you get into the wine biz? And I guess, and how'd you end up now at Williamsburg?
Well, thanks again, of course. Really, all I know how to do 2 things, and that's make wine and my wife happy, I hope. It's really started when I was the earliest memory of about 4 years old, tasting wine with my father at the dinner table. And he was quite, one of the last of the great imbibers. He loved his Burgundies. So I grew up with wine and food as an integral part of my childhood and after. So really, it's what I know, and it's what I love. It's the greatest drug out there that's possible. It's just, there's so many, the images, the romance, the art, the fact that it's got agriculture involved with that. It's what I know, and it's what I love. So it's really, taking my passion, or what was my hobby, and turning it into a career. I figure if I'm going to drink so much, I might as well make some money while I do it. And, just make it my life. So.
And, it's really interesting. This is, like Michael said, only our 4th show. But I think everybody that we've talked to, even Michael and myself included, all got where we are because we actually were doing something that we liked. It's never, I applied for a job and it was just a job. It's always people that are very passionate about what they're doing and are in it because they enjoy it.
Absolutely.
I
think it's also this industry, people with passion tend to, you don't meet too many boring people in the wine industry. There's always something there. There's some passion. There's enthusiasm for life, and usually food and wine, or alcohol in general. Just the idea of imbibing well. I should probably say, within means, right? You can't advocate.
Responsibly.
Responsibly. I can't advocate. Go
We
out there.
are all about drinking responsibly,
Yes.
of course.
So now that I've said that, I've covered the law, the legal aspects. Drink responsibly. But no, honestly, I think that I do believe that really you find some truly in this world because it encompasses so many different things within the industry. So.
And I know, obviously, you're from our home state of Virginia. How did you, have you always lived here? Did you settle here?
No, I'm actually a British citizen with a Yankee accent. We moved from England here to Washington, D.C., and then we ended up in Indiana. And then I went to California where I went to UC Davis. Then I worked in Napa for a while. Then came to Virginia. And I've been here for about 15 years. I like it.
See, it all goes back to Napa Cab.
Yeah. So
It all ties back to Napa.
It all goes back to Napa Cab. So you guys want to talk Cali Cabs, and our distinguished guest today came from a venerable winery in Napa, St. Helena Heights, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so these are serious winemakers up there. What can you tell us about your stint at Heights?
Oh, it was everything for me to be able to work with Joe Heitz. Now he had retired by then, but he lived on the property, so he would bumble into the winery every day, and he was tough. But I learned under the family and a gentleman named Joe Norman, and I learned a lot of what I was like these old guys that did things and they didn't know. They just like, hey, this is just what we do. And I was like, I like that. There was some old, that farmer mentality of, we do it because it works. They didn't need a scientist to tell them. They just knew. And I really appreciated that to be able to work where we're making Heights, Martha's Vineyard and Bella Oaks and Trailside. The ports were fantastic. David Heitz brought in more Portuguese variety grapes. He actually brought in 3 that they had to go through FPMS that he actually brought in. The Heights port's actually really quite lovely. But the property, the family was so kind to me. It was actually a very sad day in my life when I, found out that they sold. I didn't think that would happen, but it does.
Well,
but that was just, and if you look, what's interesting at Heights, if you looked at the chemistry of Martha's Vineyard, like when you get the grapes to do the chemistries, it should make really shitty wine. It's really bizarre, but it doesn't, obviously.
No, makes very good wine.
But it's how Joe did things that it just wasn't quite what most people would do. Like we had Limousin oak from France, and everybody was, Limousin oak, that's like the cheapest, worst oak. Maybe, but if you hold your wine for 4 years in that really loose grain wood, it does something. So
correct. They're very formulaic about their barreling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they were. The sales rep loved us. I got so much swag because they stuck with Mercier, Limousin, and we would play around a little bit. And I was in charge of the Chardonnay, so we got to play around with some other barrels, but you didn't mess with the Cabernets. I mean, that was Joe had designed and set up a very particular way of how the aging, the fermentations. We had a lot of wood tanks. So it's just, to me, it was, I was much younger, and it's just very, kind of built who I was as a winemaker. And one of the things that Joe Heitz taught me, he was a curmudgeon, you have to understand. I mean, he hit me more than once with his cane.
You aren't the worst boss I've ever heard of.
Yeah, so you got that going for you.
That's going to be quote of the episode. Okay, there you go.
But I asked him what we were having dinner, and his daughter Kathleen always put me right next to Joe at dinners, which was cool. And I asked him, I said, "Oh, Joe, so what did you do? I mean, how did you know the 1974 Martha's Vineyard, which I don't know if you know, but obtained that wines of the millennium, and he got he didn't hit me that time, but he did get angry, and he's like, look, son, no one person makes a wine. I did not make that wine by myself. You have to understand that it takes you've got the guys out there growing it. You've got the people in the cellar. You've got the sales. It's really a team effort. And don't ever think that you make a wine by yourself. He definitely lectured me, but it stuck. Like, so I tell people now, I don't hit them with a cane yet. I haven't gotten to the point where I can hit people with canes and get away with it. Someday I can dream. But yeah, so I was working at Heitz was it was refreshing because before that I worked at Gergich Hills, and that didn't work out so well. So going from Gergich Hills to Heitz was just a great transformation.
But I could see a lot of that teamwork you brought over, I guess, to Williamsburg. I've seen you walk your vines with your vineyard crew. I love the camaraderie. I love the collegiality. I love the teamwork. And so everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really, the vineyard guys, they work the hardest. I get the credit, but they work the hardest.
I see that. I know you're always giving them credit, and yes,
Yeah.
But now in Virginia, when it comes to making wine in Virginia, because as the age-old adage, if you don't like the weather in Virginia, Matt, just wait 5 minutes. You guys are in Williamsburg. It's south of Northern Virginia. We're coming to you from Northern Virginia today. But do you still face are you still in the weather business? I mean, because in California, not so much. You are?
I have about 6 weather apps on my phone. I've got a weather station that we installed at the winery. Then I got my trick knee, that acts up, or we'll use anything we can to try to help. For the most part, I don't trust the weather reporters, particularly the ones that profit off of it. So I stick with NOAA. I think that because they don't have any stake in it. They actually provide all of the data to all these people. So I look at that and I look at the radar, and then I try to do my own predictions. But yeah, weather is, tough. But people say it's hard in Virginia. It's too hot. It's too humid. And I like, okay, stop right there. What we're going to do is we're going to get on a plane and we're going to fly to Bordeaux on August 1st. And you're going to get out of the airport and it's going to be hot, humid, and there's a good chance you'll be rained on within a couple days. And I think we can all agree that they've got a pretty good reputation for wine. Obviously, they've got a few thousand years on us as far as, what to grow, how to grow. So we're still learning. As you said, we're in an infancy. So I think it's important when people are planting, different things. They're saying, hey, let's try it. You have to have that frontiersman attitude, frontiers person attitude of like, hey, not sure, but we got to try it. Obviously, do your research. That I put albariño in. I was going to put Mencia, but I didn't. So yeah, the weather plays a vital role, but then it's also how we attack it in the vineyard to maintain like an open canopy. So when I arrived in Virginia, I didn't see a lot of open canopies. And when I mean open canopy, like you just see like a shrub. I open it up so you see green and then nothing and then grapes. I really wanted that sunlight. I wanted the airflow. I'd always joke. I would say, if a butterfly flies through our vineyard, I want to capture that breeze because it has a tendency to dry out the fruit quicker. You get the moisture, you get a better chemical penetration. And if you do it early, you won't get sunburned. The little grapes will acclimate themselves to the cold. It's like when the Scandinavians throw their babies out overnight in the winter to get them used to the cold.
You lost me for a second there.
That's it's the same concept. You got to acclimate.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I just love the visual of a butterfly, flying through the vineyard. I just love it.
So yeah, but weather is critical.
So I know you mentioned, what's the name of this varietal? Albariño?
This is albariño. So very prominent in northern Spain and Portugal. You'll see a lot of Vino Verdes made with albariño. To me, it's just a beautiful white wine or wine. Really don't need to promote white or red, but it has the acidity, it has the fruit, and it has what people, especially for what we have here in our big food that really not defined, but it's Virginia, is Chesapeake Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Aquaculture is a really big thing with all the oysters and the other things that creep and crawl out of that water. And albariño tends to really cooperate with that. They're really a mutual respect and love between the two.
And while y'all are tasting, so this was, I asked Daniel to hand me the bottle to pour it because we were talking about data, and it seemed like a good segue into this particular wine because
Yes.
it was NASA data
Yes.
that you were looking at to determine the soils of Virginia are very similar to northern Spain and the climate and
the whole thing.
The climate.
So NASA researchers came to me, and I didn't do anything. I was just like a consultant, and they had access to all of the NASA satellites that they wanted, and we mapped Virginia meter by meter, which is really intense for all these different weather data. And then once we had this massive amount of data, we were like, well, what do we do with it? Great. Now we know what Virginia. But then they took that data and said, okay, well, what's the closest to this? And it was northern Spain, based on the data. So I've always loved albariño. I love to go to Portugal and eat copious amounts of octopus with an albariño. So I was like, I'm quite selfishly going to plant albariño because I like it a lot, and I think it'll grow well based on the data. So, but I wasn't entirely sure, but it really is. It's very similar to a Spanish or a Portuguese albariño, and I think, or I hope, that it will gain in popularity. I'm seeing a lot of people that are saying, "Oh, it's my favorite. I love it," and it's
Now, when we taste this, what should we be looking for? Because to be honest with you, I've never had an albariño before, so I'm very excited to try it.
The big thing you should be looking for is that you like it.
There, I like that answer. I love that answer.
That you like it, and you are going to have some nice stone fruits and a nice minerality, and the acidity is not like it's not a biting one, but it's a complementary acidity, if that makes sense, with the fruit and that stone, and sometimes you get some perfume characters.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting.
It's a nice wine.
With satellite imagery, you were able to determine similarities between soil in Portugal and soil in Williamsburg?
Well, I can't talk about the soil, but I can talk about the atmospheric conditions. So it's hard to say. We have a sandy loam. We got some clay mixed in there. But, we can help the soil out if we need to, and how it's, picking the right rootstock for your soil, how much you aerate it. Are you putting any lime in there? I mean, you can do things to help out any deficiencies. I know in Bordeaux, in parts of Bordeaux, they would, if you go like 10 feet deep, they used to bury the old railroad metal tracks to get the iron into the soil. So we haven't done that yet, but
I understand, Matthew, that in Napa's hilly, you have And I'm getting an echo, Dan. Is your echo cancellation on?
Let me check real quick.
Yeah, I
Also, don't worry, I can edit this. So, try now, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Oh, cool.
Okay. But in Napa, because it's hilly, they'll plant vines on hills to make the vines work harder and grow, I guess, go that extra mile and grow with better vines. Does that sound reasonable?
Not really. No. I have a very, very specific. Well, because I come at it as like, honestly, let's say we're going to Napa. We'll go anywhere. I don't care. But we use Napa. That's a good, because they are consistent with their quality. And you're on the valley floor. You're on the Rutherford dust. And you go and you have some wine and you're like, this is really, this is excellent wine. And you love it. And the winemaker says, well, we're on the valley floor. We got the Rutherford dust. And this is the way I cold soak my wine, and we do extended maceration, and that's how we make this really good wine. You're like, great, and it is great. And then you load up and you go back, and now you go up to that winery up on the hillside, up on the mountain. We'll say Mount Veeder, and you drink the wine and you say, wow, this is really great wine. I love this wine. Yes, and then the winemaker says, well, you see, that's because we're on a mountain. And it's much better than the valley floor. We get a higher elevation. We get drainage, and I don't cold soak. I don't think that makes good. So we all have different. We have different ways of making it, and we have.
There's no right or wrong.
Yeah,
It's
but where you are, it's what you prefer. And there might be subtle differences, but I would never say that mountain fruit is better than valley floor, or valley floor is better than mountain, because they all have their charms, and they're all really, when you're looking at that caliber, I mean, you're really splitting hairs about what's better, the Rutherford dust or Hell Mountain. Unless you have a preference. If you say, oh, every time I have a Howell Mountain cab, I love it, but I don't like those Rutherford dust ones too much. And I don't think the average, maybe 0.5% of the people that are really into, like your MWs and such, can tell you, oh, that's definitely Rutherford dust, and that's definitely Hell Mountain. And you can. I'm not denying that. But the average person, the 99% of the other wine drinkers, it's just a great Cabernet. I don't see the necessity to micro pick like these little things out. So it's kind of a long way to answer that question, but I'm pretty passionate about it. Like, it's really, just enjoy that wine that winemaker's made from their property that they like, and it's a great wine.
I love that answer. I really do. I feel like I've been fortunate enough to be exposed to a lot of great wine thanks to Mike and Holly. And it seems like within the wine industry, there's a lot of emphasis on this is where we are. And like, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that if you're on hallowed ground, you should be proud of that. But I think I appreciate what you're saying, because you're kind of highlighting just because it's from here and it's a great quality wine doesn't mean that everybody's going to love it. Somebody is going to love this wine from Washington State more than they're going to love a California cab. And I think that's important to highlight here, especially coming from a state like Virginia that's, not necessarily renowned world over like Napa Valley is.
Not yet, but we're there.
Not yet. Not yet. He went all the way to the San Francisco Chronicle competition right before COVID, and he came home with 2 gold medals, which is nothing to sneeze at. Congratulations, Matthew. I'm glad you got there right before COVID, too, for your Petit Bordeaux and your Claret, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And he competed with 1,000 wineries. I think 65 judges tasted your wine, and you came back with 2 gold medals. How big is your trophy case now, Matthew?
No, I don't. I like them, but I was just telling somebody what the last place we were.
Yeah.
Tammy and Larry and
Yeah.
those crew. I honestly, awards are fun and they're nice, and they're great. But my favorite award, besides 100 points from Robert Parker, would be nice. I'm not going to lie. But my favorite award is when somebody drinks my wine, has a glass or a bottle, and says, "I'd like another one." That means I have completely hit everything that they are looking for. They're content, they're happy, and they see no reason to go somewhere else. It's like the perfect marriage. You've found that person that you're going to be with. So, when you have someone that has a wine and they have one glass and then they say, "Well, that was nice, but what else do you have?" It means that, they liked it, it was okay, but they wanted something that just wasn't quite there. So I look for those little moments in my life where I see that. The awards, I won't go into the politicalization of what I think about these competitions, because I usually get in trouble. But I do appreciate them, and it's nice to be awarded. I particularly like the International Winemakers Challenge. That's the largest international show judged only by winemakers. So when I do well with them, which I usually do, that means a lot more to me. That's your peers are saying, "Hey, that's great." I actually got the 2010 Cabernet Franc. They awarded the best Cabernet Franc in the entire show.
Wow.
So that beat out everybody from France, California, Australia, wherever. So the best Cabernet Franc that the winemakers in this thing got was from Virginia.
Wow.
So that was really cool.
Wow.
And
I have to say.
I'm sorry, Dan.
No, I was just gonna say. I know you said to you one of the greatest compliments you can get is when somebody says, "I'd like another glass." I definitely want another glass of this with some oysters, because your description and your recommendations with like seafood and stuff, spot on.
Yeah, I think it's
spot
really,
on.
I think albariño is really going to take more, because other part, like it's particularly like Spain and Portugal. It's very, very common, and I think you're seeing people do, especially the millennials, they do look for something different. They're looking for something that's not, your Chardonnays or your Sauvignon Blancs.
Mm-hmm.
They're being more adventurous, and I think with Virginia, where we are now, and people are trying different things. I could mention the Aglianico, but I mean, it's just like
Mike's favorite varietal,
the
Aglianico.
The Alianico, yes, that's my favorite, Matt. So Holly and I have had spirited discussions about Italian wines being marginalized, and Holly just thinks there's not enough recognition and cheerleaders out there, and you are doing the ultimate thing. I mean, you are in the trenches, you rolled up your sleeves, and you said, "We're going to make an Aglianico out of Virginia." And that is so awesome. Thank you so much. It is my favorite. I don't know. I got an email this morning, and she said, "Did you know Matt makes an Aglianico?" I almost broke my laptop, but because I couldn't be there today. But
I'll somehow I will make sure you get it. I will ship a bottle to you.
No. I will drive down. What is the status with COVID? You guys have limited capacity right now. In your
we're open. We have a 28 room inn.
Okay.
And a tavern. So you can stay at the inn. We'll put you up, and then you can do tastings. We are doing tastings.
Awesome.
Take him up on that offer. It's a fantastic weekend away.
Sounds like a good company field trip, Mike.
Yeah,
you should get on that.
I think it would be, and because they I guess they're so inspired by all the history, and they harness a lot of the history too, and a lot of the in the wines, especially the 12 Act wine. I don't know if you're tasting that today.
The Act 12.
That's
really good.
The Act 12 wine. And then, but I do not want to delay this virtual tasting. It looks so good. What's next, Matt?
What do you want to do? The bubbles?
Yeah, let's do bubbles.
Oh, you're the expert here. All of you.
So this
one of you. I'm not the expert. That's the part we know.
Bubblehead.
This is
We're all bubbleheads here.
So this is our Blanc De Blanc. It was 2 years on the lease. It's 100% Chardonnay. Out from the Afton Mountain area, Charlottesville, and I definitely am a champagne whore. I drink an enormous. It's probably what I drink the most of. I collect growers and I collect negociants. Drink them both. It's my favorite, but I have a kind of a weird mentality that if I want a really good pizza, I'm probably going to go to a pizza place, and if I want a really good chicken, probably go to a chicken place or a hamburger. I think you should stick to one or the other. You should make still wines. That's great. Or sparkling wines. The best sparkling wines I've ever had are that's all they do. I'm sure I could find some that, there's always an exception, but it's such a different process that I think it's, that's what you should do. So this is made through a cooperative, like a custom crush, because we don't have the equipment. But the champagne, we drink it just because I saw a cloud in the sky. I mean, I don't need any. Look, there's a crack in the sidewalk.
Don't need a reason to drink
I
champagne.
better have some more champagne. I just saw another crack. But historically in the States, champagne or sparkling wine was a celebratory, graduations, anniversaries, birthday, New Year's Eve, which always confused me greatly because it goes with, you have dinner, let's say you got 8 people around the table, you open up champagne, I don't care what they ordered, it's going to go well with the food. It's from steak to shrimp. Doesn't matter. It'll go with it. So to me, I never could understand why people just drank it as a celebratory thing. So I wanted to have some. So we partnered up with somebody that we wouldn't have to. I make the base wine, and then ship them that, and then they do the dosage and all the riddling and all that. And so that's what this is. I like it. I think I am very, very proud of this. I think if you like bubbles, then you couldn't complain about this. The acidity is right on. I think it's either 2 or 5 grams per liter, so it's pretty dry. The bubbles are nice. The fruit's nice. I think it's a really well crafted bubble.
I agree. It's very, very well balanced.
And the bubbles are nice and fine and soft, and just for folks, when they see this is a Blanc De Blanc, so Blanc De Blanc always means white varietals when you see that, and so this is 100% Chardonnay, and just sometimes people don't realize what that might mean, but anyway,
We have So we have a Blanc de Noir too, but the Blanc de Blanc's nice. They're both really good. So one's a rosé, and one's this one. So.
Nice.
But yeah.
Yeah, this is new to Williamsburg, and so we'll start to see it out a little bit more, and very excited about this one.
Okay, so it's in production.
This over here.
Okay, so it's in production.
Oh yeah.
Yep, we have it.
Yeah, RNDC sells it.
Anybody wants Blanc de Blanc from Williamsburg, they can get it at casewinelife.com.
Awesome. Yes, go to casewinelife.com and mention Dan and get 10% off the case.
What's that?
Say that again, Mike.
I said mention your name and get 10% off a case. Mention your name and get 10% off a case.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Sure. Mention Holly's name.
Yeah.
Yes. So what do we have next?
So this is our estate. So we have a couple different we have our Virginia tier, which is this. Then we have our West 600, which is all estate fruit. So this is a Vigonier, 100% from our vineyard. This is also there's a lot of stainless steel Viogniers out there in the world, which are lovely. I make one, there's nothing wrong with it. But this one, on the estate one, I age them part of it is aged in stainless steel, part in concrete eggs, and part in acacia barrels and neutral French oak barrels. So I build these complexities and layers with all the different attributes of, like, so you have the barrels where I can get the lees program. The acacia doesn't give any kind of wood character, but it gives great depth and body, and I can still stir them, so I can do the surlees on that. The concrete egg allows the wine to breathe naturally like a barrel. It lends a little bit of minerality, and because the way the egg is shaped, the finer lees are in constant suspension, so you always have that contact. So that when you blend those back after 8-9 months, you have all these different layers, that it's not as one dimensional. There's nothing wrong with the stainless steel Viogniers. Like I said, I make one, but they tend to me, the more they're one dimensional. They have, lovely acidity, lovely fruit. They're bright, they're clean, they're fine. But I just like to show that Viognier, I don't want it to be oaky because there's never any oak character, but I want the complexity of those layers.
Is this the one that tastes like Nilla wafer cookies?
It could be.
The Monticello.
I write down some pretty crazy notes when I.
Well, I think you're a foodie at heart. I think you're a foodie at heart.
Oh wow, 100%. I grew up with that.
Yeah.
Now,
I grew up with food. How about that? That is so unique.
I'm actually curious. I see a lot of Virginia wineries that make Viognier. And is that a grape that's like very common in Virginia?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, it's unfortunately Virginia very quickly jumped on, Viognier is the state white grape and Cabernet Franc is the state red grape.
Mhm.
And they do make nice Viogniers, but I personally think that was a rash decision that wasn't really well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
Viognier it can be difficult to grow. It's inconsistent. It has a primary bud abortion, where you really, like, one year we had 15 tons, and the next year we had half a ton from the same 5 acres. Now we're getting better at getting that consistent, but they'll just abort the primary bud. So when you see the vineyard, that's a nice vineyard, but when you get closer, it's like, yeah, but there's no fruit. Mm-hmm. But it does do well in Virginia. I think it reflects what the grape is. As I said, Virginia has a very good at blending the old and new worlds together. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think we bridge those two worlds better than anywhere on the planet. And because Viognier, if we can get up to 23 bricks, that's when Viognier really starts to express its flavors. If you go too high, they become too bubblegummy and too fruity. And I think that's what we see on the West Coast. But on the East Coast, I think you get a more like how a Viognier really is expressed. And we are known for them. In London, we were doing a lot of Viognier tastings with the French Viognier guys, and they were absolutely blown away, like truly blown away, how good the Virginia Viogniers were, and how well some of them even said that your Viogniers are aging better than ours. So you do see if you have a winery, it's almost like compulsory that you have a Viognier, because that's what people are expecting. And I will always have a Viognier. I do like it as a grape.
Yeah,
but it is the state white grape.
So you export.
It does express itself. We have yes. We had 3 countries in Europe, and we had 1 container to China, and that's about the extent of our. So we did quite well in England, predominantly in southern England, around the London area, and that we would go to the London International Wine Fair, and there was a few of us from Virginia that built this program to do that. There was about 10 wineries, and we were doing pretty well. And the English were very, very receptive to the Virginia wines. It was really refreshing. They enjoyed them. There was no they didn't have a preconceived notion about Virginia wine suck. That was it's sometimes hard, because the history. So that was really nice. But that is
The war.
nice. It just could be difficult to grow.
It's interesting. It makes perfect sense that it's the state white grape. I'd never known that. So thank you for sharing that with me. Now I know why everybody has one that they make.
Yeah, it's nice, and I do like Viogniers. They're very elegant,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like beautiful young women.
I love that comparison.
Or they're
I know your taste a little bit.
They're like your grandma's upside down pineapple cake, right, Matthew?
Upside down pineapple. No, an upside down pineapple cake.
Yeah, I think that's how
Pineapple upside down cake.
Yes.
Pineapple
Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, they really are. That's like
100
traditional.
million.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the West 600.
So I love these down to earth descriptions.
Like just a nice oily texture, roundness and minerality, crisp.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. It's really crisp, but it's crisp in a way that I don't know that I've had much wine that's crisp like that before. I don't really know how to describe it.
Pineapple upside down cake.
There we go.
Because you got the cake part, and then you got the pineapple, which brings that tropical fruit acidity, and then that yeasty cakiness with that whatever that gooey stuff that ends up all over a pineapple. It just
Nobody knows
Nobody
that
knows
it's
what
there.
that gooey stuff is, but it's really good, and that's a good Viognier. So
I love that. We like to rate things on this show, not on a number scale, but
on a gooey scale,
on just like whatever we can think of. Like I once rated a wine. Like this is the wine that I want to have a glass of in 3 hours, and a bottle and a half later, I'm just like, oh my god, like that was not how I was expecting this night to go. So I love the pineapple upside down cake.
Yeah,
I love it.
Should we breach the reds?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna start Virginia Merlot, and I'm gonna start by saying that.
You're sold out.
Yes, I have seen Sideways.
So,
And I saw it because I was actually chained to the floor, and then they took toothpicks and forced my eyes open. It was definitely
It's like a Tom and
not
Jerry cartoon.
yeah, it wasn't good. I like Merlot, and I think Virginia makes a really, really classic Merlot, the kind that you should make. It's not a Cabernet Sauvignon; it's Merlot. So don't try to make Cabernet Sauvignon. Merlot should be that nice forward fruit with really soft, approachable tannins that are just kind of very silky, and you're almost not there. You want to be careful with the oak, and how much new oak it gets. You don't want it to overpower it. The fruit to me should be the dominant thing on a Merlot. That's what it is. And that's why I think Merlots make great bistro wines. Because, again, whatever you have, our recent lunch, we had a cornucopia of different kinds of foods. And the Merlot is just one of those things where it doesn't matter. You got a leftover sandwich, you got a pizza, you got a half-eaten steak. What doesn't matter? Merlot, I think, is one of those wines. It works with it, especially if you make it that way. And I think Virginia makes really nice Merlots. One of the first wines I had when I came to Virginia was Bordeaux Vineyards. I remember it was a 2002 Reserve Merlot, and I was like, holy shit, this is really good. I couldn't believe how, this is good. It was nice. And ever since, I think that Virginia does really good Merlots. This one has all that, what you're looking for as far as I was trained to always pour women first, but you were.
I had to finish.
Yeah.
I had to catch up.
Yeah. So then that's I don't know what more to say about this particular
But
Merlot. I used to have.
I'm sorry, Matt. I was like, to negotiate the oakiness, you said you not to make it over oaky. Do you use large oak barrels to do that? Do you use large oak barrels to do
Yeah.
that?
Yes. So what I do is I use a tremendous amount of different oak, predominantly French. I've got some Hungarian, Eastern European, and some American. But I have a lot of different producers, and I have a lot of different aged oak. So I've got new oak, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year neutral. So depending on how I see these grapes coming in, will determine how. Okay, I don't want to put too much new oak. I want just a little bit. I want that on the back end. It's kind of it's there, but you don't know it. They're just providing a subtlety to the wine. Then I'll maybe use some more 2 or 3 year oak that doesn't have as much of that oak flavor, but it's a softer, as opposed to just sticking it all in brand new oak and just overwhelming the fruit. So it's really dependent on the grapes that I get in that particular vintage. Will it handle heavier oak? The reserves. My reserve Merlot might get a little bit more new oak, and it's going to be some of the better grapes. So you really have to watch. To me, the barrel program is absolutely critical because you have to really look at the vintage, what you're trying to obtain, what the wine is, and so this had just across the board oak that was probably averaging around 3 years old. I know there was probably some new, but not much.
So,
But it's just so you don't get too much.
so generally speaking, you believe in aging your wines before releasing them. Generally speaking, you believe in aging your wines before releasing them.
Yes, it'll sit in barrel for at least a year, and I would like to release it once it's bottled. I would like to do it, minimum of 6 months to a year, but sometimes that's just not. It's not in the cards because, believe it or not, we are a for-profit business. So, sometimes you got to sell what you got. So I have been known to back up that delivery truck to the bottling line. I don't like doing it, but if we're running out of something, then we will release it. And sometimes you do release early than you want, but just because it's not a perfect world. Now the reserves, those generally they'll age. Like we're on the 2017. That is my current release of the reserve wine. This
Nice.
reserve. So that you will see that they've been aged very nicely. The 2019s won't come out until I think they'll be released at the end of this year or the beginning of 2022. There is no 2018s because I won't say how I feel about the weather conditions in 2018. We'll keep it nice on this show.
It wasn't.
But it wasn't a good.
It wasn't good.
It wasn't good. So actually, and that, I don't have a reserve in 2018 because the quality of the grapes didn't provide me.
But for that varietal, Matthew, or just on a whole, you don't have any.
Oh, on everything, if I could, it would not so much varietal. It's just 1 year for sure in the barrel minimum, and again, it doesn't really matter what it was. I think it's a pretty shocking experience if you have lived your life in a barrel and you've got all you're all comfy, and then some jerk comes along and filters you and slams you in a bottle and puts a cork in you. You'd be pretty pissed off, I would imagine. You'd be like, "Damn, Red's got not necessary. Yeah, did not deserve this. I thought we liked each other." So they need time to mellow out and just relax. Bottle shock is a real thing, and it also, it's a living. To me, it's a living organism, so it needs to relax. It needs to kind of be get accustomed to its new home, and because you can see it's like when you open a bottle and you're like, oh, this is really tight. We got to decant it, or you got to come back. I mean, I've had wines that I had to open up for 5 hours because they didn't open up. So the idea, and I think the consumer, if you give them a product that they can open, drink, that you've aged it for them, that's nice.
Have you ever sent wine back in a restaurant that smelled like wet dog?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I have, and I'm nice about it.
It's okay to do that if you have a corked wine. What you're describing, that like wet dog or like kind of funky smell, grandma's basement. I don't know, like musty old basement. It's okay because that means it's a corked bottle, and that happens. It's unfortunate, but it happens, and so it's part of the chemical processes that wine is alive and corks and interactions. Matt can talk a little bit more maybe about why, but if you do get that just from a PSA announcement, don't think that that's the wine. Some people think, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm never going to have this varietal or this winery again. But it's not. You just, politely ask the server, I think there's something wrong with this. Could we get another bottle? They're usually trained to say, no problem. We'll get you another bottle. And then they call me and they say, we got a corked bottle. Can I get a replacement? Yeah. Absolutely, no problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's the one thing people don't realize, that if a restaurant gets a corked wine and you send it back, they're not taking that hit. They're going to give it back to the distributor. Now, if you have a problem, that distributor is going to call the winery and be like, hey, you got a lot of corked wines. Yeah. There's a problem, which would be very rare. But I think it's important. You have to, if in Argentina, this is wild. It's a law. Let's say you order a bottle of wine, you can send it back because you don't like it.
Wow.
And they have to take it back.
Wow.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So it's just like, someone pours it, you're like, take it back. You don't have to tell them, you say, take it back. I don't like it. And they have to by law. So, I think, if you have a wine that's corked, the problem is that some people drink a wine that they don't know it's corked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You just think, oh, this smells like my grandfather's magazines in the basement. And I don't care what kind of magazines your grandfather looked at in the basement. That's really not the important part.
It could be a variety of different
it's
smells,
a variety of, mechanical engineering, I'm sure. But, that's what it smells like, and people don't know it, so they drink it, and they're like, oh, I'm never going to order that again. I if a wine is bad, I'll send it back.
I just want to remark, Holly, Matthew, your first time on our show, you have an open invitation to come on whenever you like. You've been awesome. I've never seen Dan so relaxed, Holly. He's really enjoying these wines from Williamsburg.
You've never seen me so what?
Relaxed on camera.
Relax.
I think humility. The good wines that are doing it.
Okay, so I may or may not have gotten a look, and something that Mike said to me when we had a previous guest on of, Dan, you can't just say whether or not you like the wine, like come up with some tasting notes, like say something. So I really appreciate that you were just like, shit, I really like that wine, or sometimes you just like something, sometimes you don't. So we're speaking the same language.
Hey, I love it. It's great. That's what this show is all about. Just rolling our sleeves up, having fun, and drinking wine and talking wine.
But I think that's a point though, because it's like sometimes wine, it's not about, I taste, red berries and blackberries and, strawberries. Sometimes it's more about an emotion, right? Mm-hmm. So you may leave here and in 3 days think about Williamsburg wines and say, I was tasting them and, I was able to kind of just kick back and enjoy it. And it just made me kind of like, I really enjoyed the time of tasting, and it just made me kind of chill, and and so that's the emotion, right? That it'll evoke.
Absolutely.
Moving forward is, I really enjoyed those wines. I could kind of just, just kind of sit and enjoy and think about things and think, and then just enjoy. So that's, that's a pleasant experience. So, as you maybe see a bottle in the future or drink a bottle in the future, you're going to always think like, gosh, I go back to that time when I had them, and this is the way that I was. Yes. And that's the beautiful thing about wine, is that it isn't just about, if you don't get strawberry raspberry, you're wrong, right? Like, it's not that. It can evoke emotions as well, and that's the beautiful thing.
I think that's why people have been intimidated by wine historically, because there's so many people that make such a big deal about it, like in doing all these writings and this has this and this has this and you must know this, and you're like, no, you don't. What you must know is that you like it and that it was enjoyable to drink. So I really don't like. I have to write all the wine notes, and some of my wine notes get very creative.
Yes.
And because I think you want to bring it down a little bit, and you just want to give people an idea of like, hey, these are some nuances or essences of this wine, But like, so when we do, I hate when I do wine dinners and people want me to describe the wine. I'm like, it's right in front of you.
Taste it.
I love it.
You tell me.
I love it.
I don't need to. I mean, you should just try it. I mean, I don't.
That's the ultimate tasting note. It's right in front of you.
Like,
ultimate tasting note. It's right in front of you.
I love it.
yeah.
That's great.
So,
Awesome. Are you guys tasting the Adagio today?
oh no, but you'll have to do that when you come
Thank you
down.
so much.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to look forward to that. They dropped 92 points on that Wine Enthusiast, and so I'm dying to try it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's my boldest wine. That was me. I put it in a really big. It's the heaviest glass bottle you can buy. It's it's an Italian glass. It's got a beautiful etching, and it's my boldest wine. And I put it in that big glass bottle just to be a jackass, because I don't care about my carbon footprint, I guess. But it was like to show and compare. It's like, hey, look, you guys, you want to make big wines? We can make big wines too. We can be bold. We can be this dramatic. But it's a dramatic bottle. And you see it.
Yeah.
It's a 750 that almost looks like a magnet.
It's muscular.
It's
like a black bottle has
Yeah.
a gold etching.
Yeah, it's really nice. But it's not. It's a nice wine.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. So, but Petit Verdot.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Sure, that's it.
So this is another Wessex series, Petit Verdot, so estate. I can't speak highly enough of Petit Verdot. I like it. It's one of my favorites. I also make wine in Argentina, not during COVID, but I'll be back hopefully next year. But my Malbec that I make in Argentina has Petit Verdot. I think it's it's a very consistent grape for Virginia. I think it outshines Cabernet Franc in Virginia. It always gives me depth, it gives me color, it gives me these great. It's a big wine that also has a softness to it. So I kind of equate this to Bruce Springsteen, like when he was younger, because he would like if you were in Jersey at night and you're walking down the street and you saw that guy, you'd be like, I think I'm going to cross the street because that guy looks kind of rough and not really big, but just kind of rough with that cut off jean thing, And then, you don't, and you start talking to him, and he's got this very soft, angelic voice. So that's this has, your approach is a big wine, but then when you try it, it has the tannins are very silky. So it goes really well with food. It doesn't overpower anything. It's a more of a complementary than anything. It goes really, really well with lamb. So if you like lamb and wine, this is like one of the greatest pairings of all time. I also like Petit Verdot because nobody's defined it yet, in the sense that it's new for a lot of Bordeaux used it as a 1% or 2%. It's now just gaining its own right as a varietal. So nobody has really defined what it is. It's growing all over. My friends in California are playing with it. Argentina's playing with it. East Coast, West Coast. I mean, all over, and they're all pretty consistent. And there's no one area saying, "Well, this is really the best Petit Verdot," because there isn't. It's just Petit Verdot, and I kind of think that's really cool. That it's so I guess we could call this a universal grape.
So a lot of people talk about climate change right now. It's a very popular topic in the wine world or in agriculture in general, in terms of the impact on grape growing or whatever crop you're growing. But I wonder, with Petit Verdot as a hardy grape varietal, it kind of seems to withstand a lot of different climates, and it'll have different expressions, and it's one reason why I like Chardonnay, right? It can probably be grown anywhere. It'll take on a different expression depending on where it is. But I wonder if that's one of the reasons why people are starting to play with it more, is they think that this is something that's going to withstand maybe changing environments and different weather patterns and things.
And I think people are looking at different grapes for that. I know I'm going to say last year, or actually I'll say 2019 because I've totally put 2020 out of my mind.
Did we all?
Bordeaux for the first time.
Yeah.
Bordeaux for the first time added 2 new grapes that you can legally plant, and it was 100% done for climate change. That they were looking to the future to say, hey, look, if these temperatures keep going up, we need to have varieties that can withstand higher temperatures or different ripening times. So it is affecting the wine industry. It's just depending on how progressive you want to be. Right now, we look for varieties that we think might do better. There's a lot of research going on in Italy and UC Davis in France, South America, South Africa, Australia, looking at interbreeding of clones to help. You're seeing, obviously, I've seen weather patterns in California change to the point you do see like Oregon and Washington are just thriving. Washington, particularly, if you gave me a choice right now, if you said, look, you can have a California wine or a Washington wine, I would take the Washington wine.
I think the Washington Wine Board just hired you.
But we have to play. We're farmers, ultimately, so we have to deal with Mother Nature, and how we deal with her is just the best we can, and try as much as we can, and hope for the best. But I think people will have to look at where they're growing, and like I've seen 2 years now in a row where we have frost, which it used to be rare. Like you got frost, but 2 years in a row where we had some really potentially debilitating frost. So
see you guys out there in the middle of the night with fires going, trying to worm the grapes up, and everything you guys can to save crops.
Yep.
Yeah.
So but that Petit Verdot will take pretty much whatever Mother Nature throws at him, and still give a depth of the wine, a richness to the wine. Here in Virginia, it ripens up. I think I've picked it actually pretty early if I have to, but you can also let it sit on the vine. You have options with it. It can crop pretty heavy, but you have to be careful of that because people say, well, just because it's got dark color doesn't make it great. It just means you got dark color. If you really manage your crop load, you'll get the dark color, but you also get a better complexity on richer aspects in the wine. So I watch this pretty closely of like how we crop it. I'll drop fruit if we're getting too much, just to make sure we keep that richness. Yeah.
And Mike, in case you want a tasting note, it tastes exactly like Bruce Springsteen. Spot on.
I like that tasting note. There you go. That's something Matt would say. Awesome.
There you go.
Great.
It's a really good wine.
Yeah, this is
I think
and this would go really good with Bozzelli's pizza, especially like a Italian sausage pizza, right?
Definitely.
I think so.
I think given what Matt said earlier, eat what you like and drink what you like. Any of his wines would pair well with any of our pizzas. And we'd love to host you at one of our pizza shops too, Matt. Today, I forgot to mention, you guys are coming from a VFW hall?
Lucky because it's recording on his end too.
I can't hear it. I have no idea.
You cut out a little bit, Mike. Say that
Are you
again.
guys recording from a VFW hall?
We are.
We
Oh,
are.
awesome.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, is that your next event, Matt?
No, so we are here at VFW 3150, the John Lyon VFW. Some amazing history here. with John Lyon. I learned a lot about John yesterday. We have some of the VFW members are actually here watching Matt talk with you, and they are actually here at this VFW hall, going to be 100% Williamsburg Winery for their wines,
Awesome.
which is very cool. Yay!
Awesome.
So if you're a member of VFW 3150, or if you're just kind of here in the neighborhood, come on down and you'll get to enjoy some of these wines.
And you'll get to meet the best Elvis impersonator ever.
Yes, I didn't know if I could say that, but I also learned about that yesterday, and that was awesome.
Sam is the best Elvis impersonator.
Is he available?
I might do a show for you.
Is he available?
He's available. He's right here.
Okay. Hey, bring him in.
He's
Okay. Hey, bring him in.
Say hi.
oh, he's
The king.
He's not dressed up as Elvis right now, though.
All right. Next
Okay.
show.
Hi.
Hey, how are you? The king. Elvis.
We're having open mic one night on Saturday, so you will probably see Elvis here on Saturday.
Open mic. You'll see Elvis on Saturday.
Is that every Saturday?
Okay.
What time? Is that every Saturday? What time?
Every Saturday.
First Saturday of the month, and it starts at 7 to 10 p.m., but we're opening our pop-up Thai kitchen at 5 p.m., so we're going to pair Williamsburg wines with the Thai cuisine.
Okay,
And
I
then
know where
roll
I'll be.
into
I know
the-
where I'll be, everyone.
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Taking care of business. Taking care of business. TCB.
Never a dull moment on Bozzelli's TV. This has been awesome. How many wines did you taste today, Dan? 6?
Say
How
it
many
again, Mike.
wines did you taste today? 6?
Yeah, well, we got one more.
Well, we tasted 5, and we're about to taste number
Okay.
6.
So this is the Gable Archer Reserve. The so my reserves is I don't make every year. It's just if the grapes warrant it. This is 40% Cabernet Franc, 40% Petit Bordeaux, and 20% Merlot. I think that's correct math. Those grapes just play really well together. The way I describe this wine is it is unabashedly Bordeaux style. I mean, I'm not gonna. I hate to use that word because we're not Bordeaux, but that's the kind of the style. That's what the feeling or emotion I'm trying to capture with these wines, with this one, and hopefully I do. Like I say a lot, I am making old world style wines with a new world address, and that bridging those two worlds I think is important. But my father was not a Bordeaux guy; he was a Burgundian. But it's important to have these different styles, and I think Virginia does really, really well with their blends. If you look at a lot of wineries here, their top wine is a lot of times a blend. We have Adagio, then there's there's just a lot. There are blends, and if you go to visit the Virginia wineries, you'll see. And that that kind of does take us back to the traditions of Bordeaux of blending. I don't like to say I could say a Virginia blend, but there's not a reference. So the only reason I say Bordeaux is to give people a reference, a mark to be like, okay, I understand what he's talking about, or what he's going with, or for. So,
And then what do you think are the predominant tasting notes in Bordeaux, like your classic Bordeaux, Matt?
I can't hear.
So,
What's
are you
the tasting note?
tasting it for this or classic Bordeaux?
Classic Bordeaux.
Oh, I like the elegance. The tannins are usually well balanced. The fruit, I think there has to be, they have all the different levels. So there's always a little bit of that slight veggie character, which is I think a good thing. You have that I call forest floor, that earthy character, and how they blend the dark and the red fruits together. So it's not a predominantly like Merlot would be predominantly, you think more red fruits. The Petit Bordeaux, Cabernet Sauvignon, you're going to go more to the darker fruits, the dark cherry, the blueberry, or the prunes, the dates, the plums. But I think, what Bordeaux does, or what the old world wines do, is it's more of an elegance with lots of different layers, not one outshining the other. So when I've been a judge a few times, and when I'm making my notes, I find that the best wines are like, I'm just like, I can't, I don't know. It's like, it's just freaking perfect. It's just lovely. I don't want to write anything. I'm just like, okay, 98 points. This is great. Where the some of the more, I don't say simple, but then other wines you could just be like, oh, you could just pick this stuff out. You're just like, oh yeah, I get this, which is fine. But I'm talking about when you're looking at a really balanced, a really beautiful wine.
Well integrated, where
exactly.
everything is so integrated together that nothing's popping out, but it just all works in harmony together.
It becomes its own entity. Yeah. It's like it's like its own thing. And
that's where you kind of talk about like it's evoking an emotion, which as a judge, I imagine because you're like, okay, just amazing. Like this is. Like there's no other way, and it's just it's going to take you to some sort of emotion. And as a judge, when you're supposed to be putting red fruit structure, like all this kind of stuff, it's kind of like, how do you do that? So that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's I think that to me that's what a Bordeaux is. It's the balance, the elegance, the tannins, everything is just really well structured, and makes it more food friendly. And to me a lot of. I always say this a lot, but I think wine has to be food friendly. I say all the time, when I make a wine, there's three things that I think about. And not in any particular order, but it's food, my father, and I used to say women, but now it's my wife, Elena. So it's food, my father, and Elena. But those three things, if I can make those three things happy and like I've got to nail those down, then I'm good. I'm like, okay,
Matt's wife Elena is right here, so yeah.
We bring Elena in because I understand she's the brand ambassador for Williamsburg, right?
Yeah, she's the muse. She's the one, the inspiration.
Yes.
So this is Elena. I'm going to let Elena join you for a minute. No.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Elena. Welcome to Bozzelli's TV.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I understand you're from Moldova.
Yes.
So you know a lot about winemaking because Moldova, everybody has a vineyard in their backyard. I understand.
Everybody's trying to make a little bit of wine in Moldova. So everybody's trying to, it's like a back porch wine. So
some of it's pretty good.
Only some of it?
No, I mean, well, some of these backyard guys don't know, but there's some true passion and heart in those wines.
And Elena, I understand you work at Williamsburg. You do. And you
Elena is responsible for all the sales.
The sales, the marketing. Okay, awesome, great. How was 2020 for the winery just generally?
Off premise we're okay. We were good. On premise, I don't want to talk about that, but it's coming up, so it's picking up very well, and it's nice to see that restaurants are ready to taste and order, and you see this theme of supporting local, and people are open to more like esoteric, interesting, unique varietals, which is great to see, and different price points. So it's great.
So it sounds like you're saying you wish Matt would make more foreign Merlots and Cabernet Sauvignons. Is that true?
The more I can make, the more she can sell.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I didn't understand the
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Is there? So do you feel like you have to educate your customers in some of your varietals?
Yes, it takes a little bit more because what we're trying to showcase, the albariño, the vigonier, the more esoteric, the petit manseng, and that takes a little bit of education. But then when they try it, then they open their palate, and it's different than usual, Chardonnay.
So I really respect what you're doing, because that's how easy to educate the consumer, especially when they have tunnel vision when it comes to Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz, Moscato. I said the dirty M word in front of a legendary winemaker. I used the word Moscato. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We'll just edit that out.
Yeah.
We got that out, no
Don't
problem.
worry. We'll take care of all that.
But I bet, Elena, do you wish you made a Moscato?
No. There's a market for Moscato, but that's not my style, and I don't see. I think that market is kind of dying a little bit. There's a lot of people who love Moscato. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not my particular style, and I think it's not what Virginia are known for.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. No, I understand. We like to joke about Moscato, but we respect everyone's palate, and it's one big family, one big taste. One day we'll have albariño, one day we'll have Viognier, one day we'll have Moscato. Not.
Yeah.
But
it is a big brand. I mean, it's a big seller.
Oh, it's believe me, especially the south you go, people love Moscato, and I can see it's sweeter, it's easy, it's light, it's on a hot summer day. I can see that. But personally, me, I prefer my dry white, and I think I do push what I like.
And I think that's really important. There's a lot of, I'll say wineries, but really in all facets of business. We're in the restaurant business as well. There's definitely not always a connection between what you really want to do and what people really want. So I think it's important that you stay true to yourself and say, no, this is what we want to do. And not just every time somebody is why don't you make a Moscato? You can say, well, it's not really what we want to be doing. And I think there's something to be said for doing what you want to be doing, and not what will make you the most money. Or
then you lose the passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, I'm not going to chase someone else's tail.
Mm-hmm.
Just because something like orange wines. I am just completely befuddled with orange wines, and now people are making them because they're chasing some other tail. And by the time a fad gets mainstream, it's going to go down before you can come up. And orange wines and they're truly an abomination, but people are buying them, and other people are making them. I think the only reason they're making them is because they think they're going to get on the bandwagon, and they're going to chase that tail, and they're going to make sales.
Yep.
But then you're just a whore. I mean, you're not really. It's not because you love what you do, or I want to make this. So I have a very particular style of wine I make, and that's what I'm going to make now. And because I think if you, Henry Ford had this great quote, and he said, "If I asked people what they wanted, they would have told me a faster horse."
yes, customer's not always right. Yes,
what you do.
Customer's not always right.
No, they seldomly are right, actually. Rarely. But so I think you have to have that passion. And I would never somebody said, you have to say who you are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People say, oh man, if you made scuppernong, you could sell those like crazy. And I'd say, I would rather put a needle through my temple than make a scuppernong. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. Could we sell it? Could we make a ton of money? Absolutely. But then we wouldn't be who we are. So I think it's great for the people that do, like the Moscato. It's great for them. They've made a great profit. They do well. People love it, and people like scuppernong. It's just like Elena says. It's not for us. It's not what we would ever do. And we hope that if we just stay true to ourselves and our passions, then it will reflect that and people will come.
Well, I think that's beautiful. And, this has been a really enlightening experience for me because it's very nice to meet somebody who's in the biz that's so down to earth and so honest about what they're doing and so passionate about what they're doing. And we really appreciate both of you and Holly as well for taking the time to join us and share some of your wine with us. And
We'll expect to see you down